This is my 2025 Porsche 911 Carrera S 992.2 in Guards Red. I've done several videos on this car already. I did a delivery video of it for when I picked up in Manhattan. I did a road trip video for when I drove it to Cleveland and back. I swapped out the tires. There's a video on that. I'll put links to those videos up above. You can check those out. And to that end, this is my car. I've had it for about 5 months. I put about 4,000 miles on it. And because of that, I can give a real world ownership experience, just like all the other car videos that I've done. So if you are either considering getting one of these, or you just want to know what it's like to own one, this video is for you. We'll talk about some options that I got, things that I might get again, things that I might not get again. We'll go for a drive and we'll have some final thoughts. Let me talk just a little bit about time and cost. The spreadsheet on the screen behind me is the spreadsheet that I use to track all of my cars as they're being built. I put all the milestones on there, and then I also keep track of the prices. I'll put up on the screen, you can see the dates and the costs here. The 992.2 Carrera S was announced on January 8th, 2025. I got my allocation at Manhattan Motor Cars on January 17th. It had a estimated delivery date of May 15th. However, after the car was done and at the port in Germany, the tariffs were initiated. My car sat at the port for 2 weeks. However, the actual date I ended up picking it up was exactly May 15th. 118 days from allocation to delivery. Cost-wise, I am told long before my time with Porsche that 911s used to be affordable. And I get that these are very relative quotes that I'm using here. But the 992.1S MSRP was $131,300. Not a small amount, absolutely. But when the 992.2 Carrera S came out earlier this year, the price had gone up $17,000 between the two models, $148,395. And even just since then, by now late 2025, it went up another $3,300. So the total price jump so far from the .1 to the .2S was $20,400.
Yikes.
Now, I get a lot of things that used to be optional on the .1 are now standard on the .2, but it is still a pretty big price jump. From what I understand, Porsche is trying to position themselves in the market up closer to the Lamborghini Ferrari area, and they're trying to distance themselves from the BMW Mercedes land. But I think they are kind of stuck right in this middle ground, but they keep inching their prices farther and farther up. And there's going to be some point where they're going to price themselves out of the market. The people that are buying the sort of the base models, the base, the S, the T, even the GTS, these are, again, in relative terms, price-sensitive people. We are not the people that are spending $100,000 over MSRP to get a GT3. That is a whole different category. If Porsche keeps going with these price increases, they are going to price themselves out of that market. Looking at perhaps the most obvious thing on the outside, the color. I really wanted Shark Blue, but they got rid of Shark for the .2 generation, so I went with the Porsche Classic Guards Red. Initially debuted all the way back in 1973 as India Red, until they changed the name in 1979 to Guards Red, and it is named after the British Royal Guards uniforms. I know some people prefer the more subtle colors like GT Silver and Chalk, but for me, I figured I did not get a subtle car, so I'm not going to get a subtle color. If you're looking for a car that disappears at a parking lot or on the road or is under the radar for police, a Guards Red 911 is not that car. Looking around the rest of the car, in the front here, the headlights, I went with the new Porsche HD Matrix headlight design. This is where the Porsche headlight design language seems to be going. I got these with the idea that I was going to code them to the European functionality, but I discovered that doing that is not easy or cheap. I really like the looks of the Sport Design front package. However, the pricing, again, Porsche tax is crazy because it's really just this painted area down here and it's like $3,200. So it's crazy, but I discovered you could get the entire Sport Design package that came with the front fascia, the side skirts, and the rear fascia for a more economical package price, I guess, as it were. On a 911, the engine is, of course, in the rear. So the front has the frunk or the front trunk, and there's 3 ways you can open that. You can open it from the lever inside, you can open it from the key fob, or if the key fob is within distance of the car, you can just rub right here and it'll open. It does have a proximity sensor, so as you get closer to the car will unlock, the handles come out, the mirrors unfold, but as you walk away, it will not lock, which is a feature that I wish it had. My BMWs have it, but the Porsche will not lock. You, of course, can lock it from the key fob, mirrors will fold, handles will go in. Side of the car has classic 911 lines. One of the things that's nice about Porsche is that they really keep the heritage of the 911 design, and it looks very similar, as many people know, to the original 911 designs. They don't really reinvent the way their car looks like BMW seems to do, for better or worse. Looking at the wheel options, I went with the RS Spider wheels, and really out of the wheel choices, these were the only ones I was going to pick. The Carrera Classic 5-spoke ones were just a little bit too plain for me, and most of the other options had this wide lip around the outside that you really just can't appreciate unless you see them in person. The wheels on the .2 inherit the brake calipers from the 0.1 GTS, so you're going to have more prominent brakes with better stopping power. And the other nice thing about these wheels is that because of what they are made of, the texture of them, they hide brake dust really well. They are not a polished finish, so if you don't clean them all the time, you won't really be able to tell as much. And when you do clean them, it's going to take some time because there are all these little parts in the tires that take quite a bit of effort to clean, and also because of that, it's a little harder to get back in the barrel. A small aftermarket option that you might consider are these little wind buffeter things. It's a known issue with 911s that if your windows are down and you're driving a certain speed, you get this really loud, resonant wind buffeting sound inside the car. So you can get these things. They're really pretty easy to install yourself, and they work to deflect the wind around from the window. Another super easy DIY is swapping out the front side markers to one of the smoked variations. I think it's a nicer color combination. On the rear, I really like the Sport Design fascia piece down here. It's this painted piece around the tailpipes. I think it gives the rear a more finished look to it. The 911 Carrera S logo here, you can get in a couple colors. I was going to get it in black, but I went with the subtle matching of silver tailpipes, silver letters here, and the silver Porsche lettering. The second way that I can tell the .2 generation is the slats in back. The .2 has only 5 slots on each side compared to the .1, which has, I don't know, 1 million on each side. And a cheap upgrade you can do, these come from the factory as black. For $700, you can get them in the body color, or for $15 on Amazon, you can go buy this detailing tape and it matches almost exactly. And unless you got up close, you would not know that this was an aftermarket thing that you did yourself. As far as space, up in the front, it is a large, deep hole, big enough for 2 carry-on size suitcases, as I showed in my delivery video. I did pick up this organizer from Thule, or Thule, however you say that. Has 2 large pockets along with some other smaller pockets in it. It fits down in there perfectly, and this is great for when I go to get groceries and other things like that, because it does add a little bit of organization up there and keeps things from moving around while you're driving. Closing the front, pull it down, and then you press right on the crest. Some thoughts on the interior now. The things that were optional on the .1 generation are now standard on the .2, one of those being more standard leather. That said, I went ahead and got the extended leather package, which gives you more leather up higher. I got the chalk stitching on here. It's on the seats as well with the black leather. The chalk stitching, it's nice. It's not a huge difference. If I had an all black interior, I think it would be fine, but the chalk does add some nice detail to it. The rear seat room is very negligible. No one is going to sit back here except for maybe a child seat, but no person is going to fit back here. You can get the rear seats for free, which is a nice option. You can put them down and have a shelf for storage. I really don't ever do that, and I figured as long as I was paying for the upgraded leather, I was going to get more leather with the rear seats. I keep a little storage stuff of some car cleaning stuff behind the right passenger seat. I went with the red seat belts for a Porsche priced $500. A lot of money, but I did like that they matched with the outside of the car. However, if I had to do this over again, I wouldn't say that I'm really noticing these seat belts as I wear them. And if I had them in black, I would probably be totally fine with that. There's the center armrest here, which has a pretty shallow area, just about 1.5 inches deep. And there is a wireless phone charger here, which is ventilated, but I have found that this does not work well. My phone overheats when I put it in there and it stops charging. And really, I don't like it when my phone is out of sight because it's easier to get out of the car and forget it. Forward of that, there are 2 cup holder options that come with the car. A regular cup holder with some fins. This gets pretty snug with anything a little bit larger. I found that the standard, just kind of square hole works well enough for holding a travel mug, secure enough in there, and then you can also use it for some other general things. Forward to that, there is a lot of piano black here. I think there ought to be an option to have this textured plastic up here because the piano black is a fingerprint magnet. I appreciate that there are a lot of tactile buttons still here on the 911. I got the Renline phone mount. It sandwiches between the dash here, comes with a wireless charger here that I have plugged into the 12-volt power outlet in the passenger footwell. My Pixel 10 Pro XL needs a Qi 2 charger, so I just swapped out the head. It's a perfect spot for it, I think. It keeps the phone out of the way of the screen, out of the way of the buttons, out of the way of the vents. In the door, there are 2 other spots for storage. There's a small pocket here that I just have a small cleaning cloth in for cleaning some stuff like inside the car. And then there's a spot forward of that you could put a water bottle. And then anything forward of that I feel like would block the speakers. Speaking of the speakers, I did option the Burmester sound system. I know people say that the Bose that comes standard with this is fine, and that really because of the road noise and the interior cabin noise from the engine, which is piped in a little bit from the sound Symposer, which I don't like, you can't take advantage of a nicer sound system. And I don't entirely disagree with that, but some things that I did to help with that, I swapped out the Pirelli tires for all-season tires. I did a video on that, and the road noise became significantly less with that. And because of that, I think I can take more advantage of the nicer sound system. And I also felt like I would have FOMO if I didn't get the sound system. If you're not an audiophile, you're probably totally fine with the Bose system. People say it's plenty adequate. But again, I wanted the best sound system I could, so I did pay extra for the Burmester. I know it's not a good representation of the sound just listening to it on the lav mic I have here, but I know people want to hear these things. So let's just take a listen. I think it's overall a really nice sound system. I do recommend going to the settings and changing some of the sound profiles to get the best sound out of it. Once it's adjusted, it sounds really nice. Porsche purists are all up in arms because the twisty starter has now gone to a start button, which I am totally fine with as this is my first Porsche. My only issue is that coming from a long line of BMWs where the start button is on the center console, I'm always confused as to which finger I'm going to use to start the car when I get in between this and my X5. I went with the upgraded heated GT sport steering wheel, some buttons on either side, including the drive mode selector knob down here that you can use to change between the different drive modes. The car will notify you when it thinks you should do wet mode, or you can do it on your own. There's also the power boost button here that you can press, and it will give you 20 seconds of maximum power, and you can press that as many times as you want. One of the other advantages of the all-digital dash is that unlike the .1 generation where you had to move your head side to side to see the outside dials on the dashboard, with this one you can see everything through the steering wheel all at once. And there's also several different screen options, some of which are customizable, but honestly none of which I think are perfect. Going through them briefly, this is the 5-dial version, the tack and speed in the middle, and then these outside dials I don't find all that useful for my daily driving. Moving down between them, you do with this scrolling dial here. The 3-dial version here, the same tack in the middle. These outside 2 screens are customizable. You move over here. This one has a couple different options. And then moving to the other side, this only has 2 options. Tire temperature, and this is the speed limit. The speed limit could go up here as it does in some other screens. And then this gives you your speed, which is redundant because it's in the middle. Also gives you the speed of the car in front of you if you have the adaptive cruise control. Next screen shows the adaptive cruise control, shows the distance of the car in front of you in the middle, and the same 2 outside screens. Then there are 2 different map screens. This same outside screen, you can see the speed up on the top. That speed limit is also noted in the upper left there. And then there is a full map option. And then the last option also not customizable. What would be ideal for me would be if I could have audio information on the right and navigation on the left, because I really just don't find the options, especially for this left screen, to be useful for my daily driving. The clock up here I really don't use much. If you want one with an hour and a minute hand, you have to spend extra $1,200. Otherwise, you get the digital time and the second hand. The display screen down here is a little bit smaller than on some cars, but again, this is a smaller car, so the screens are going to be a little bit smaller. It's fairly responsive. It has the built-in music options. If you have Apple CarPlay or Spotify or things like that, the built-in option is going to be a better sound quality than something you're doing Bluetooth through Android Auto or CarPlay, so definitely use the included option if you can. All right, let's go for a drive. I find the 911 to be a perfect mixture of kind of whatever car you want it to be. It is a very comfortable daily driver. And then when you want it to be, you mash that accelerator and it becomes a sports car. You spend most of your time in the first third of the pedal and the car really doesn't feel that fast. I have some friends that have a Turbo S and they say the same thing. And I feel like the first third of the pedal is kind of your daily driver position. But then when you need that acceleration, you press it down and it kicks in and there is plenty of power. The car is both compliant or stiff depending on what you want it to be. It comes with Pirellis. I swapped it out for all-season tires, as I mentioned in a previous video. And the ride became much more compliant, much more comfortable as a daily driver. And the road noise went down as well. I did a sound comparison in that video, and you can go listen to the difference in the two sounds. The cornering on it is super precise. I had talked to people that had Porsches before me. I had never had one. This is my first one, and I asked them what their opinions were on driving a Porsche compared to, say, BMWs. My one friend said that a BMW is kind of like a pocket knife and a Porsche is more like a scalpel. Cornering on this, it is rock steady. There is no body roll, and that's even in normal mode. I have the all-season tires and I moved the tire pressure down to the comfort setting. But even in my lower tire pressure with all-season tires, the performance is still amazing. Brief commentary interlude here. To those of you keyboard warriors sitting on your side of the screen saying, I can't believe he bought a 911, put all-season tires on it, and lowered the tire pressure to the comfort settings. How dare he not have a GT3 with cup tires on it and be driving at 9/10 on the Nürburgring? He needs to turn in his man card and his sports car card and go buy a Camry. To those of you, I would say, as I've said before in other videos, this is my daily driver. Well, I enjoy the spirit of driving. There are no canyon roads around here. Well, I enjoy track driving. When I do track driving, I go to track events and drive the manufacturer's cars. I drive spirited where I can within the boundaries of not getting a ticket with a red 911 that some people refer to as arrest red, as opposed to guards red. And so I enjoy the car for what it is, but as a daily driver to and from work and groceries and things like that, I decided to make the car a little bit more comfortable and compliant, a little less road noise, a little less beating me up going over bumps, and also able to enjoy the money I spent on the Burmester stereo. And so for those reasons, to those of you that are all riled up over there, I would say, be calm. Now, back to the video. People complain because the 911 keeps getting larger, and for sure it does. However, that said, in the grand scheme of things, the 911 is still a small car. And because of that, it is very easy to wash on your own at home. I have my Obsessed Garage pressure washer set up, which I've done a video on. You can check that out. But I really enjoy taking the time to bond with this car. Getting in the wheels, cleaning them. Because it's a low car, it's very easy to clean off the roof and reach across the whole thing. And it takes me about an hour to do it. I'm sure I could do it faster, but for me to do it right, that's about how long it takes. The car is full ceramic coated, which makes washing it even easier. And I had the front PPF, which I think was worth it because the front of this car is pretty low slung, and I did take a rock to my hood about 10 miles out of New York City when I picked it up. Oh, and here's a tip. When you're drying the hood and you want to dry underneath it, make sure that the wipers are down, because if you lift the hood up with the wipers up, you are going to scrape the edges of the hood. And you only really have to screw that one up once before you stop doing that. Thankfully for me, it just dinged up my PPF a little bit and not the actual paint. Some closing thoughts on my 2025 911 Carrera S. Having owned this now for about 5 months, I can see why the S falls where it does in the Carrera lineup, which is to say the most popular model, the sweet spot, not just the best of both worlds, but the best of all worlds. It's not the base model because some people want a little bit more than the base model, but don't get me wrong, the base model is going to be plenty for most people, and it's the most affordable, a lot of air quotes in this video. It's affordable, relatively so. It's still a very expensive car, but it's affordable compared to these. This car is also not the more track-focused cars like the stiffer GTS and even more so GT3, and also it's for sure not GT3 money. So for me, the great thing about the S is that it is the best of all worlds. It is a comfortable, compliant daily driver to and from work, long car rides, groceries. I don't think it should be your only car, because if you need to haul some stuff, the frunk is not going to be big enough to put much stuff in. I have an X5 sitting right over here, and I use that in the winter and even worse weather when I need to haul some bigger stuff. So I think the 911 is a great second car, if you're so lucky as to have two cars. And then also, aside from the daily driver, you can put this into sport settings with the tires, with the sport mode, and it can be every bit of a track car. Another thing you can do with the 911 is that you can just sit and stare at it, because Porsche does amazing continuing the DNA of the 911 and keeping it a perpetually gorgeous car. People do complain that it keeps getting bigger and more bloated, which it does get bigger. And if you want something smaller, well, get a Cayman. But still, it is an amazingly nimble car. It is amazing to drive. It's amazing to look at. And if you can afford one, because they are for sure not cheap, consider yourself lucky. I am amazed that I am finally owning one and get to use this as a daily driver. Appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you in my next car video.